if you lose your privacy and your freedom to transact is taken away from you, what other rights do you have? And there are none. If you can't buy food because you don't have permission to do it, what other rights do you have?
Hey guys, welcome to the We Are Satoshi podcast. You just heard Grafton Clark talking about why the ability to transact without being censored is really at the base, the foundation of all of the other rights that we can have as human beings. We're born with the right to be free, and in this world today, more than 5.3 billion people do not have really any form of property rights at all. And in the Western world, we're watching our property rights, our ability to retain privacy, being wiped away and really infringed upon just year after year, crisis after crisis. So today I get to talk with Grafton, who is the head of growth at a company, an open source project, really a company and open source project called Vexl. Vexl is basically a peer-to-peer trading platform, and Grafton's going to explain it a lot better than me, but essentially what they're doing is breaking down some of the biggest barriers to adopting Bitcoin. If you send your friend a link to some exchange to buy Bitcoin, they immediately are hit with, hey, give us your social security number, your home address, all this information. And those steps, every time you give that information out, you're taking a risk. And the more times you take that, the more likely you are to actually be the victim of identity fraud or whatnot. And people know that. So anyways, I'm going to get off my high horse here. Let's get into the show with Grafton Clark.
He wrote this book called A Lodging of Wayfaring Men, and it's like the cypherpunk's Bible. And that's what Vexl was, the inspiration for Vexl. And it's like the coolest fucking book ever. It was written in 2002, like way before Bitcoin. And the book is basically telling us Bitcoin is coming. And there's nothing that anyone can do to stop it. And the government's going to try, the banks are going to try, the Catholic Church is going to try, everyone is going to try. No one will succeed. Because once you leverage a true web of trust and like you have real world reputation, it's a parallel society that functions without anything else. And so then it will grow to become so big where the government will go, well, fuck, we have to try to figure out how to get these guys to cooperate with us. Rather than like trying to shut it down, then they go after, well, maybe we can bring them in and get them to cooperate. But the way the system is built, it means like that's impossible. So that was kind of the inspiration for Vexl, which is like a true private market. Because, we spend like 6 months a year working just to pay our tax bill. And that like stifles innovation, that stifles everything. Like where you look where like countries where taxes are high, they have worse human rights and worse like progression as a society. And so like that's when you create something that allows you to trade privately between like people outside of everything else, then suddenly you could buy anything around the corner from my house because I live in a trusted society. Yeah, and that's like web of trust is the only way that we will be able to beat them in the future. Yeah. Because like if I'm able to trade if I have 25 friends in common with Monkey, then that means that like it's probably going to be a good chance that no matter who this person is, like this is going to go smoothly and well, because like if they know Monkey and they know 25 of my other friends, like we're good, dude. I don't need to like question it. I'm just going to meet you and do the thing. Yeah. And I mean we're at Paranpolis, and so like Paul's been here. I mean the first time I ever met him was here, and I didn't know who he was. Like it was he wrote this book. He's like a proper cypherpunk. His name's Paul Rosenberg. He's an intellectual. He's like electrician. He's just like a cool guy. And he wrote this book called A Lodging of Wayfaring Men. And it was written, like I said, in 2002, like way before Bitcoin. I think published even like officially a year before Bitcoin. And it's basically about building a private market that's based on like kind of trust and outside of like a parallel society, because that's where things happen when the government kind of clamps down and stifles the population, stifles the people's ability to do something with boredom rather than work to pay taxes. You start having more advancement in society, like drugs, medicines like can be created because there's less government oversight that requires them, to jump through regulations, because you're dealing with like people and you're people solving problems. And I think that's a lot of what, the world needs is we go through so much bureaucracy and stuff that sometimes we just need to be able to communicate and talk with each other quickly to solve problems. So,
so even just back up a second and maybe just talk about how that book that Paul wrote influenced Vexl.
Yeah, well, I mean, looking at it it's called A Lodging of Wayfaring Men, and it's actually about the creation of a private marketplace. They call it like Omega in the book, and when you look at what that is, and it's something like when we were thinking about Vexl, it's like Vexl was not my idea. It was Slush's. Slush was from Slush Pool, and you look at, well, what's something that I need that I want for myself, and it's like I want to be able to have a private marketplace where I can trade with my friends and friends of friends peer-to-peer, and without any sort of KYC. So looking at like how that book was an inspiration is like when you read it, I think that I don't want to spoil too much of it because I think everyone should read it. But through that creation of the Omega and the book, and then dealing with how it started to influence society and how government started to view it, is of course the first thing they want to do is they want to shut it down. They want to treat these people as as treason. They want to try them as treason, like people who commit treason. And that's what's crazy to me, is because you work so hard to build something, and then the government tries to take everything they can from you. So yeah, but looking at how it was an inspiration for Vexl is, that's what we want. We want to create that tool that allows me to trade with anyone that I know in a trusted way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because we were having dinner and there was that guy Miles there, and something he said stuck with me is like Vexl is trying to solve the biggest problem, which is like the holy grail, which is having non-KYC exits. Because Bitcoin's great, but like people have said, like if the police can just come to your door and force you to open your phone and give them access, otherwise you go to jail, then it's almost pointless. So what's the importance of the non-KYC peer-to-peer?
Well, when I think about like KYC as a whole, for me it's like the biggest hurdle that we have in onboarding people into it, is because like me and you might be concerned about our privacy, but the average person, they're so used to giving up their privacy for convenience. But when you look at what steps are required to go through KYC, it's like I remember the early days of the internet where people were terrified to put their credit card numbers in the internet, right? And then we got to a point where people would put their credit card information on the internet for nothing, just like instantly. And then, I remember, a lot of early Bitcoin exchanges, there was no KYC practices. This was something that was added much later, to protect you, they say. But what you've seen as a result of that is a lot of people's information winding up on the dark web, and that information can be exploited. So it's kind of like when I look at KYC, for me, it's like we're going to wake up in 10 years or 5 years, even that, and go, this is a nightmare. Because if you ever bought Bitcoin on an exchange, or if you ever went through this platform and now your information is out there, they know how much Bitcoin you have, then you become a target. So when I look at what I want and how I want to be able to share, Bitcoin with others, is I want them to be able to onboard easily, without having to give their, electricity bill, their passport, take a weird selfie, and then what's next, a blood sample, or, we all got used to sticking cotton swabs up our nose. What's the next step, and how far does it go where people start to resist? Right now it's, for me, a little bit overwhelming when someone wants to come into Bitcoin and they go, well, yeah, all you need to do is sign up and give all your personal information, and then you can have permission, right? And for me, Bitcoin is something that should never require permission. Like, it was made so that, literally the very first line is, you're good. The allergies are, going crazy, but like the very first line of the white paper, peer-to-peer electronic cash without a trusted third party or financial institution. And that's what's crazy to me, is you go to Bitcoin conferences, or you get on the internet and all you see are financial institutions. You don't really see anybody that's focused on the peer-to-peer aspect of it. And you have node runners and you have these people, and this is amazing. But when it comes to buying and trading, it's selling your Bitcoin and wanting to kind of, not have to go through these financial institutions. You want to do it peer-to-peer. Well, where do you go? What do you have to do that? So looking at why we started with Vexl, we wanted to answer that question, which is like, okay, how do I peer-to-peer and how do I do it conveniently and safely and privately? So look at how Vexl's built. And Vexl is based on that real world web of trust. It's my friends, right? I've spent my whole life kind of getting to know people and gauging whether or not I can trust them. And if there's someone that I can trust, I feel like, I can vouch for them. But imagine if it's not just me vouching for them, it's 4 or 5 other people who also trust them. And you can come together and say, yeah, this guy he's fine, right? And so you can enter into a contract with somebody, and you can meet them face to face, and you can do that without ever leaving any sort of digital trace. One of my favorite comedians was this guy. His name was Mitch Hedberg, and he had this joke about buying a donut. And he went to the store to buy a donut, and the girl asked him if he needed a receipt for the donut. And he said, no, man, I just wanted to get a donut. Why do we need to bring ink and paper into this? I give you the cash, you give me the donut. I can't imagine a situation where I would have to prove that I bought a donut. What am I supposed to do? Like, go home, put this in the file under D for donut in case the government comes knocking and says, hey, man, we need proof that you actually bought that donut. And that for me was like, as a kid, I found that joke hilarious. But you look at it now and it's like, well, why do I need to give my ID and my electricity bill just to buy 50 euros or $50 worth of Bitcoin? And that's a huge hurdle that slows down adoption of Bitcoin, I believe, because, if you have a Bitcoin curious friend and you say, yeah, you can buy Bitcoin, but first you need to sign up, you need to connect your bank account, wait a few days, like they're going to go, just forget about it. Then they go to an ATM, and an ATM wants to charge them 12% fee on top of it, and they go, this isn't worth it, call me later, when this is a lot easier. And so that's like where Vexl comes in, is really, how do you buy Bitcoin? Like, you can Vexl it, which leverages that peer-to-peer, which is like, I really want to meet you, I want to give you cash, and I want you to give me Bitcoin. I don't need to bring ink and paper into it. And I walk away. And so what you can do is start to plant that seed into people to say, it should be this easy. It should be communicating with your friends more than anyone. Your friends want you to succeed. Your friends want you to have a good relationship with Bitcoin. We are Bitcoiners, so the more people who use it, the more like freedom that we have. And what's not freedom to me is signing up on a centralized exchange. Man, I used to work
It's insane.
like my very first job out of university, actually, I worked for a bank. I worked for Wells Fargo, and I wore, I was like, oh, cool, I'm in a bank, I'm gonna put a suit on, go to work every day. I'm like, yeah, and it blew my mind, like when you're working as a bank teller and the bank branch manager is telling you like, all right, so every customer that comes in, you have your KPIs for the day, you need to be able to open 4 new bank accounts. So I was like, so how am I supposed to do that when I have customers coming in who already have bank accounts? He goes, well, you should be looking at their accounts, looking at their transactions, what are they spending their money on, engaging what kind of offer, like what you could offer them. You want to always be upselling to them, create a better account. And that blew my mind, because as a bank teller, when someone opens up an account and I can see where they spend their money, that's one of the most telling things about a person, is like where they're shopping, where they're spending their money on, how much money they're withdrawing from the same ATM every week. You can learn really a lot about a person's patterns and behavior. And that's one of the times where I really started to go, this is a privacy nightmare. Is like, I'm a 20-year-old fresh college graduate, and I can look up anyone in Wells Fargo's entire bank system and see anything about their accounts. So if I know your name, I could do a quick search for you and find everything about you. Who am I? I'm just a 20-year-old working behind a bank counter in a grocery store in Texas. I was a grocery store branch, so like the bottom of the barrel. And the amount of information that's available there is shocking. So you look at that, and that's why I think it's the same when you look at how centralized exchanges operate. Is, yeah, of course they're gathering that data, and of course they're going, okay, this is what this person is doing with their Bitcoin or whatever, and they're building a profile on you because eventually they're going to come around and either sell that data to someone else or use it for their advantage, not for yours. And so, like, incentives, that's also what's crazy to me, is like so many people are incentivized by such little carrots, you know, dangling in front of them as like $10 worth of free Bitcoin to give away all your personal information.
1.5% back on your credit card.
Yeah. Like, you know, APYs and like all of this kind of stuff. And it's like, dude, the best incentive that you could possibly have is a strong peer-to-peer network where you can trade with friends and friends of friends.
What do you think it's going to take for people to figure that out? Like, what do you think? Is it more pain? Is it more censorship?
Yeah, I mean, my mom is a strong, I have nothing to hide kind of person. And then, like, if I'm at home and she wants to show me a picture on her phone, she's like, yeah, she'll never let me touch her phone. She'll show it to me, but she's like, and I'm like, what do you got in there, you know? And she's like, nothing. I'm like, oh, so you do have something to hide. And like he said over here, is like, ask somebody, well, what kind of pornography do you watch? And I'm sure no one's going to be, well, I watch this and this and this and this. But like the nothing to hide camp is really interesting, because for me, privacy is not trying to hide dirty secrets. Privacy is sometimes trying to hide fun secrets. You know, it's like if I'm married and I have a joint bank account, you know, it's like, that's one thing, but we have our private bank account so that we can keep, you know, privacy from, maybe I want to buy my wife, you know, something nice, and I don't want her seeing this is where the money went, you know. So we all deserve our privacy, and we all respect our privacy. We want privacy. But, you know, it's like you said, is where you're from, is like, oh, people don't care. And it's like, no, they don't care about what you think they should care about. They care about what is valuable to them. And, you know, in Cypherpunk Manifesto, it says that privacy is the right to selectively reveal yourself. And I think that statement is very true, is because, you know, I'm a quite a public person. You know, I have a Facebook, I have an Instagram, but I don't put all of my text messages on public. I don't treat Twitter like it's my SMSs, you know, like it's Signal or anything else, because I have private conversations. So it's about knowing who has the potential to see those. And I think that if you took any person and said, all right, well, every message you type or every dollar or euro you spend, we're going to put it up on a billboard in the city with your name on it, and we're going to show every transaction, would you then care? And they'll go, well, of course I don't want that. So people it's very subjective of who you are concerned about seeing those details. And most people currently feel protected by their governments, or they feel protected by their banks, that, oh, they don't want to abuse that information. But that's just simply, we know that's not the case. We know that's not true. So while you and I are concerned with it, most people haven't been affected by it yet. And I do think it's just a matter of time. You know, like, look at CBDCs. No one knows what that is yet because we don't have them. But the second those come, people are going to, I hope people start to realize, like, this is a terrible idea. Because I think the last thing that you have is, you know, is your privacy, is your ability to reveal what you want to know about someone. And if you lose your privacy and your freedom to transact is taken away from you, what other rights do you have? And there are none. If you can't buy food because you don't have permission to do it, what other rights do you have? And I think that, you know, going back to what Vexl is doing is, like, and what does it take for adoption? That's a very interesting question, and I think seen a lot of different ways. Yeah, so I'm from Mississippi, right? Which is like, if I ask anyone what they know about Mississippi, they'll usually have a pretty funny answer. You know, like statistically, we're last in everything in the United States, whether that's obesity, illiteracy, racism. Like, you know, they like to stereotype us as being this horrible place. And, like, you know, Mississippi's not a horrible place. People are good. We're a hospitality state, and we show that. But at a very young age, I started to realize that I was living in this, like, this bubble. And I went to boarding school, and I met international people at a young age, and it exposed me to life outside of, small town Mississippi. And so after in university, I took a study abroad trip over to to England. I studied for a semester in Kent in the UK at Christchurch there, and I came to Prague for a 4-day weekend. And I just had the best time in Prague. I remember walking, I'll never forget, I walked down the stairs of this pub, and there was a cloud of weed smoke coming out of the basement. And I was like, all right, this is a different place. This is some sort of, where am I? And then there's a badass band playing, and the band took a set break, and we got to talking and traded contact information. I stayed in touch. They were like, you got to come back. So when I graduated, I decided I'll do 1 year. I studied history, so I was always fascinated with what was happening here. Is if you look at Czech Republic, they've been occupied but never truly conquered. The language has always kind of been the thing that's preserved a sense of their freedom here. And during communism, it's really interesting because here you didn't have a bloody revolution. You had the Velvet Revolution, which is really famous for this peaceful revolution. And Czechs are not people who fight. They don't enjoy conflict. They do want calm. And so during communism, there were these guys. They were called Vexl.it, and that's actually where we got the idea of the name for Vexl. But these guys, we were a very distinctive looking group of people. They had most of them had mullets and crazy ski jackets, proper 80s looking guys, wearing fanny packs on. And they would stand on the street, and they would stand outside these stores that were called Tuzex. And Tuzex was a government-approved shopping center that sold products from the West to selected members of the Communist Party who had permission to shop there. And so the Vexl.ites, what they would do is they would stand outside of these shops, and they would sell the government-approved vouchers for the local fiat currency at the time, which would enable, normal people, plebs we might call them, to be able to have permission to walk into these stores and buy whatever goods that they wanted. So I'm talking Levi's jeans and JVC stereos, right? So these Vexl.ites, they were freedom providers. They enabled normal people to have the same permission that, the ones who were granted it by the Communist Party had. Me being from America, Prague just has this, I always kind of say there's nothing like a post-communist country that understands what it means to have freedom. And, me being from the United States is this home of the brave, land of the free. And that's not what I think it is anymore. I think America has been in decline for a really long time and has lost a sense of what it means to have freedom. And, you look at projects, look at what's happening, and a lot of innovation, a lot of the biggest, coolest projects in the world. Where are they not available? Where are they not happening? Well, United States, because people are afraid of. There's no freedom if you're afraid, and so coming here to Prague and seeing places like Paranpolis and the home of Satoshi Labs and Brains, and you have all of these companies who are building stuff that does preserve and protect your freedom and enables that. I think that really resonated with me. So my 1 year quickly turned into 13. Holy shit, I can't believe it's been 13 years. But I travel a lot. I go all over the place. And there's one place where I'm always looking forward to coming back to, and that's Prague. It's home. Life is good here. I have the best friends and colleagues that I could ever imagine. And, we're all building stuff, building cool stuff that, I'm excited about and to talk about. And it fills me with that, it's there's something in the air here that definitely fills me with some sort of passion that I never found anywhere else. It doesn't get old.
What do you know about Paranpolis?
So the first time I ever came to Paranpolis, I think was in 2000, I want to say 16. And I was a Bitcoiner for a long time, but I never really came in here. I bought Bitcoin early, sold Bitcoin early, and I remember coming in here and for Bitcoin coffee. And I remember buying Bitcoin here to pay for a coffee, which is in 2016, so it's definitely the most expensive cup of coffee I ever purchased. But Paranpolis has been, a place where a lot of ideas have come from, especially in, Bitcoin space. Trezor, like these kind of places definitely, like these kind of things definitely got their start here. Just talking through people, fellow cypherpunks, and really, I think Paranpolis provided like a refuge for nerds and for people to get together and say, hey, we have the ability to talk to each other and make stuff happen. And then since then, I've become really close with a lot of people from here. Every year they have Hackers Congress here, which, is one of my, if not my favorite. I go to a lot of Bitcoin conferences, but Hackers Congress is something a little different because you have the cypherpunks, you have the people who are building tools, who are building hacking devices that are just sharing things. But what really, I think the biggest impact that Paranpolis ever had on me was when I met Paul Rosenberg here and watched his talks, and he kind of fills you with optimism. And I know that I meet a lot of Bitcoiners, and I think most of us are really optimistic that we have the tool. We gotta share it, we gotta build it, and I think this place definitely helped kind of drive that in a lot of people. A couple years later, Wells Fargo was like indicted for it, basically. So like I was there when they were telling me to do it, and then I moved here, and then I saw that like, oh shit, Wells Fargo. Yeah, a lot of employees. Yeah, they were opening accounts for people without their permission and everything.
I had a friend who worked at a bank. He literally was like, "Hey man, can we just open an account? I get like a little perk because of it." I was like, "Fine, we can. I'm never going to use it."
Oh yeah,
it's ridiculous. Yeah.
Well, and it's like look at any store that sells their own version of their credit card. Like if like Sears used to have their own credit card, or JCPenney has their own credit card, or Toys R Us, right? And you're just putting people into financial tyranny right from, shopping for toys. They want to see the store. Why use a Toys R Us credit card? Because you want every transaction so they can go through this, so they can see, oh yeah, these people are buying these toys. It's all marketing. It's all about your data, because when you have a lack of privacy, you just become a product for them to market and to sell to everyone else.
I want to ask you, if I can, and we talked about it a little bit the other night, but just how has Vexl been received? How has it grown? Like, where is it growing? Just talk to me kind of about this, like the progress and how people are using it, stuff like that.
So Vexl is pure peer-to-peer. We're a nonprofit. We will never monetize. We are based...
Funded by OpenSats.
Yeah, funded by OpenSats, and donations, value for value purely. And what we aim to do with it is really create a tool that allows anybody to trade within their web of trust. So peer-to-peer. I want you, because the way to achieve true privacy is truly face-to-face with cash. Because if I leave a digital footprint like anywhere, then that's KYC light, right? So if I meet you in person and I give you cash in a transaction. So what Vexl is a mobile app that allows you to do that. And it's currently, when we look at what a web of trust is, where do we have a web of trust? So where do I talk to my friends? Where do I talk to the people that I love, that I know the most, that I trust the most? And so we were trying to solve that problem, and we did that with Vexl. And we all have a web of trust in our pocket. We use our phones every day. That's who we communicate with. So our web of trust is based around your phone numbers. Your phone numbers, we will never see your phone number. They're not shared with us. They're not shared with anyone. Everything happens locally on your device. And all of your data is split across four different services that never communicate with each other. So if someone does grab the hashes of the phone numbers and gets the phone numbers from them, what do they get? They get a giant list of phone numbers that are not valuable in any way, like that I can randomly generate with ChatGPT or any sort of other AI that have more value. Because when I use my phone numbers, it's the pub around the corner where I get reservations from, it's my dog walker, it's all of my contacts, and they're not valuable because they're not Bitcoiners. But eventually we all will be. So yeah, that's what Vexl is. And it really leverages that web of trust. Where it's successful is Czech Republic, really. We launched here in 2022. Now, if I want to buy Bitcoin right now, I can buy Bitcoin in an hour. I meet the guy. Like, I'll say, hey, let's do it. I'll meet him on the way home. Like, it's everywhere. Everyone's using Vexl here. It's very cool. But like any tool, people took that tool and said, did you know that I could do this with it? So farmers really quickly said, oh, wait, I can sell my honey for Bitcoin on here. I can sell eggs for Bitcoin. I can sell, we saw horses for sale, frozen octopus. I thought the octopus thing was a joke. Like, really, I didn't think that anyone was actually selling octopus. And then, like, a couple days later, there's a guy on Twitter. It's like, so I bought octopus on Vexl, and he was like grilling it in his backyard. So, like, Jure Bednar, a good friend of ours, and he said that I can't wait till the day that I can buy dishwasher tablets without KYC peer-to-peer. And I was like, it's just around the corner now. So we are available like everywhere worldwide except the United States. And I think we all know why. Yeah. So, and that's like to kind of comment on what makes it persecution resistant or censorship resistant is, well, like, we have no idea what people are doing in the app. The only information we have about any user is what country they're from. Other than that, your offers are encrypted for each person on the app in your network individually. You'll never see something further than your friends of friends. Your offers are encrypted, your profile's encrypted, your chats are end-to-end encrypted. So even if we wanted to see what was being sold on Vexl, we can't. I only see my network.
How does it play into people's, like, the human rights element? In the U.S., we just think number go up. We just care about, increasing our purchasing power. But around the world, people have different pain points. So maybe how does Vexl come in on, like, the helping people achieve, whether it's, to be, talk just about the synergy there between human rights and... Yeah,
well, I mean, I touched on this a little bit earlier, but without the freedom to transact, you have no other rights. I mean, that is what I believe in and what I know to be true. So if I need permission to participate in any sort of financial system, I'm immediately losing my right and I'm losing my freedoms. So what Vexl kind of aims to do is address that. If you're, look at what Local Bitcoins was doing. If you were a dissident in some country escaped from Russia and you need to accept money, Local Bitcoins was a way for these people to be able to trade. And now we don't have anything like that. We have nothing that enables us to be able to trade that way. So that's where Vexl comes in, is like, if you are a dissident, or if you are somebody who doesn't have a bank account, if look at a large part of the world is unbanked. They don't have that ability. They don't have the permission, or maybe they just never had a savings account. Vexl enables them to do this without having a bank account, without having anything else, without having and needing permission. So if you have a phone number, if you have a web of trust, currently you can trade with anyone that's in your social graph. How does that scale? Well, it scales every time I open my app. My network is bigger because someone added another friend of a friend. Looking at other webs of trust down the road is like, well, where are they building web of trust now? Nostr is a really good example. Nostr is building web of trust, but with 25,000 daily active users, you're not going to own most people. Most of those 25,000 are already Bitcoiners. We want to onboard people conveniently and accessibly with something simple. Yeah, and that's where Vexl really does do the things different. Is you want to buy Bitcoin, you need this app. I don't touch Bitcoin. We don't touch fiat. We connect you. Essentially in a peer-to-peer Tinder for Bitcoiners is kind of how I would maybe look at it, is like, which is funny because Apple we are in Google Play Store and the Apple iOS Store. But Apple, we're in test flight because they've currently called us reckless and inappropriate, which is for me like hilarious because it's like, is it reckless to meet my friends? Is it inappropriate to meet my friends? Is it inappropriate to meet a farmer to buy honey from them? But no, but you'll meet a random stranger on a Tinder date and go for a walk in the park at night together, you know, like, but it's reckless for me to meet my friends. Yeah.
Buy shit coins on Coinbase.
Yeah. Oh, it's reckless. Yeah, exactly. It's like, you know, that's the other thing. Is like someone says, "Oh, how do I buy Bitcoin?" And you go, "Oh, well, here's my referral link, man. Like, sign up, you get $10 for the free Bitcoin," and then you get constant advertisements of a blinking shitcoin casino telling you, "Did you know you can get 150% APY on this shitcoin?" And it's like, dude, talk to your friends. Buy Bitcoin without KYC, and you know, if you're new to Bitcoin, like even post in your offer like, hey, I'm new to this, can someone help me, like what lightning wallet should I use, you know what. And that was like my friend, I sold him my Nintendo Switch. He was not a Bitcoiner, and I had this Nintendo Switch I was sick of looking at, that I actually bought with Bitcoin here in Prague from Alza. They're like the first major retailer to take Bitcoin. I bought it in 2017 and played Mario Kart for like 2 weeks and then never touched it again. My friend said, "Hey, I'll buy it from you." And I said, "Okay, yeah, but I'll take Bitcoin." And he goes, "I told you this, man. I don't have a permanent address in America. I live in Czech Republic. I can't buy Bitcoin. The ATM is 12%. No." I said, "Dude, create an offer on Vexl. Say, I want to buy my friend's Nintendo Switch. Please help." Like, I'm not kidding you. 3 hours later, I had Bitcoin in my Lightning wallet, and he was coming over to pick up the Nintendo. And the guy he met, he still meets that guy every month and DCAs from him. And this is a year and a half ago. So, like, you really can find your community, your peer-to-peer community. A lot of us, we have Bitcoin meetups, we have local communities that we attend, and what do people go there for? A lot of time they want a peer-to-peer Bitcoin. Vexl allows you to leverage that community on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, every day of the week, and just around the corner for me.